questions about the release that we put out last night about South Africa. So if you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat bar. Who wants to kick off? Great, Ben. Thank you.
G'day, Nick.
Hi, Ben.
Mate, is there any prospect of this South African series still happening somewhere this year? Or is there any prospect of any other Test cricket happening, I guess, against another nation in the meantime?
Yeah, no, thanks, Ben. We're just obviously been doing an enormous amount of work with Cricket South Africa, and we had last night's decision. So we're working through, and we'll work through over the coming weeks and months when we may be able to reschedule the series. We did offer to host the series here, but Cricket South Africa made that very clear that I think they've also got lots of other commitments, and with quarantine periods and the like, that wasn't feasible. So we'll work through when we may be able to reschedule the tour, which we really want to do over the coming weeks and months.
Nick, just the other question I wanted to ask. Obviously, this is massive for the World Test Championship. Will you speak to the ICC about perhaps delaying that final on account of the fact that Australia, were on the verge of making it and now may not because of this unfortunate postponement?
I think we all knew the rules going in. I think that's what's made this decision really, really hard. I think we've done everything we possibly can to make the tour go ahead, but at the end of the day, we had to listen to the overwhelming medical advice. So we won't be pursuing that with the ICC, but it's just another reason why not being able to tour is so disappointing.
Thanks, Ben. Mike Purcell, you're up next.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, look, there were a lot of reports about concerns over the staff at the hotels and in the bubble, and them quarantining and that sort of thing. Some people thought that was going to be too big a mountain to climb. What were the discussions with Cricket South Africa like in that respect? How far did we get into that before the decision was made just to pull the pin?
Yeah, no, I think we've worked so hard over many weeks. I think since the beginning of the pandemic, we've all learned a huge amount, all the different countries. I don't think Cricket South Africa could have done any more from where we started to where we got to in terms of biosecurity arrangements. We made a significant amount of progress. What happened during the process is really two things. Firstly, South Africa, very sadly hit the peak of their second wave, and then secondly, we've got the more virulent strain, which there's still lots of unknowns around that. So really, as we work through the residual risk, and also some questions and challenges around if we were to get a case, how and when we could get our players back home, taking the advice of the medical experts, and as we've always said, putting health and safety absolutely number one. We were really left with no option. But I can't speak more highly for the guys at Cricket South Africa. They've worked extremely hard. Our team has worked extremely hard, and I think that's what makes it all the more disappointing.
Lachlan McCurdy.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for taking some time to chat with us. Cricket South Africa were pretty strong in there and vocal in their response last night, saying they were extremely disappointed in Cricket Australia. I think there was extremely regrettable as well was another term they used. Kind of similar to that last question, but more specifically on their statement overnight. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we share their disappointment. I think it's, we've all worked throughout this to make the tour happen. We all understand the importance of international cricket continuing. We've gone to great lengths to get to England. I think our medical advisors throughout this home summer, we've done absolutely everything in our power to deliver a full season with the health and safety as number one. And I have to say, they haven't missed a trick. They've made all the right calls. And at the end of the day, the way to the medical advice, our duty of care to our players and staff, we were really left with no alternative. And I think the reaction from, obviously we've spoken to our equivalents at length. I think the reaction from Cricket South Africa, is totally understandable, and we share their disappointment given the power of work that everyone's put in to try and make this tour go ahead.
Thanks, Lachlan. David Mark, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hi, Nick. Look, I think in part you probably answered this question, but I just wanted to drill down a little bit. I suppose, given the nature of the pandemic in South Africa, what were the straws that broke the camel's back that ultimately made you decide that this wasn't feasible? The specific, I guess, biosecurity reasons. And just as an addendum, but if you could answer that question first, what is the mood of the players after this decision?
Yeah, sure. So I think it. Clearly the biosecurity arrangements that we've been putting in place all around the world to get cricket happening is all about mitigating the risk of a positive case. I think it was around the prevalence of the virus in terms of numbers, also concerns about this new strain, and then very much the implications of if there were positives or multiple positives within the group. And the challenges and some of the logistical challenges that would present some serious problems if that occurred. So, I think as we've worked through the home summer, at no stage have we've had lots and lots of challenges. We've had players in biosecurity bubbles, but at no stage have we put any of our people, if you like, at medical risk. And unfortunately, given the prevalence in South Africa, and based on the medical advice, we just felt that the residual risk, even with all of the biosecurity arrangements in place, was too high. Sorry, I think it was David. If you could just repeat your second question.
I just wanted to know the mood of the players regarding this decision. Obviously, they could be disappointed. I don't want to put the words. Was there a sense of relief too? And were the players behind this decision at all? Did you take their input?
Yeah, so obviously we've spoken to the Players Association at length. I've spoken to the coach. Obviously through Ben Oliver and my team, they're speaking to the players regularly. The players are disappointed. They want to play cricket. They want to appear in the World Test Championship. They want to play Test cricket. They want to get back on the horse after this recent India series. So, they're the same as me. They're very, very disappointed. And we all went into this endeavour and worked very, very hard to make this tour happen. As we've seen throughout this whole period, things change very, very quickly. And from when we started work on the tour, and just, if you like, the increase in the prevalence in South Africa, and this new variant, it would be very difficult for us to go against the medical advice. So they're equally very, very disappointed.
Thanks, David. Dan Bredick.
G'day, Nick. Just a question around, I suppose that, obviously there was the option of playing in Australia or the option of playing in South Africa. Was there the third option of potentially trying to find a neutral place in between to play it, whether it's the UAE or anywhere else?
I think we didn't explore that in too much detail. I think the question, obviously, if you think about a neutral venue, is where. And you know, there are challenges in lots of different jurisdictions. So certainly we made the formal offer to host, you know, I think that was Cricket South Africa, and we respect it entirely, made their position very, very clear. And, you know, we've continued to work as hard as we can to try and make it happen. But, you know, as I said, we came to a point where people were starting to commit costs. People were starting to have to do pre-departure protocols and enter into biosecure environments in South Africa in preparation. And you know, I think we left it right to we gave ourselves every shot. We couldn't have left it any later. But you know, in the end, as I said, that residual risk, the implications if we did get a positive, the chances of getting a positive, meant that we really didn't have any other decision at the end. And yeah, I think we will now work to see when we can play that series, because obviously we want to honour our commitments.
Nick, just one other. There's obviously a rightly or wrongly a view that, you know, Cricket Australia's found a way to play England, found a way to play India, but every other series against every other nation has been postponed. I understand there's very different circumstances each time, but what can you say, I suppose, to that perception that it's, you know, the two most lucrative series have been played and the others haven't?
I mean, all I can say is that we play every ball on its merits. We've learnt a fortune since we've started. We've got the best medical advisors. I think everyone's becoming much more adept in terms of both the protocols and also risk assessment. And unfortunately, this current time in South Africa, we've just been presented with a risk profile which is significantly greater than anything we've encountered to date. And with health and safety as our number one priority, as it has been all along, we have found the level of risk to be unacceptable at this point of time, and that's unique to the current situation in South Africa. And as I said, it's very, very disappointing.
Thank you.
Andrew McCormick.
Nick, can you guarantee that Australia will be allowed to travel to England if they do qualify for the Test Championship final, given the UK variant is arguably just as risky as the South African one?
I don't think you can guarantee anything. That's one thing we've learnt. You certainly can't guarantee how quickly things change. You know, our mantra all along has been to take the advice of the medical experts, the public health authorities, and do everything within our power to play cricket. Now, you know, thankfully for this home summer, you know, there's been community transmission at stages through the summer, but the prevalence has been, you know, compared to the rest of the world, relatively low. And you know, it's still been massively challenging to play the home summer. I mean, I think the players, can't speak highly enough of the players for their sacrifices. They've been away from family in biosecure bubbles, and so you know, if it comes to that we qualify for the Test Championship, that's now out of our hands. It's reliant on other results. Then you know, obviously we'll have to look at the situation at the time. But our commitment since this very start of this this period is to play cricket as scheduled if we can, providing it's safe to do so, and that will continue to be our mantra.
And Nick, just quickly, was there any thought to reselecting the New Zealand tour squad, given you've got, you know, some of the best white ball players in the country that weren't going to originally be on that tour? So none of those guys will go over?
I think we were pretty clear when we announced the two squads that they would be the two squads. The reality is that the T20 squad has started its pre-departure protocols to enable it to them to move safely into New Zealand. So we always knew that logistically that we would have to pick two separate squads. What we've done, we've given ourselves just every possible best shot to make South Africa happen. Unfortunately, that hasn't transpired, but what that means is that we're committed with the T20 squad that's been announced, and we won't be changing that.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. John Purick, you're up next.
Oh, hi, Nick. Thanks for your time. Just got two questions. One is, obviously the test team probably now won't play another test until the Ashes. Is any thought perhaps to the New Zealand tour, perhaps having a couple of tests there or another series between now and the Ashes?
Again, this recent decision is very fresh, so that's not something we've looked into at this stage, but we've been obviously processing and working very hard on this particular tour. So currently there's as you say no test cricket scheduled, but we'll look at that over the coming weeks.
And I've got one on the IPL as well. Would Cricket Australia have no issues in perhaps saying to the players not to go to the IPL if that goes ahead, like the BCCI says it's going to go ahead in India? That's obviously been an issue as well with COVID big time. Like, would you be prepared to say to the players you can't go and give them NOO sort of certificates? Yeah, so we've obviously got precedent on that from the IPL last year. We've got obviously the IPL has, if you like, proven its biosecurity protocols. So, as and when applications are made, we'll consider each of those case by case on their merits. Thanks.
Andrew Wu, you're up next for a question.
Yeah, good day, Nick. Just a slight aside from the from South Africa, I was just wondering with the reports about player unrest with Justin Langer, the coach. I mean, is there what will CA do? I suppose in response. I mean, you going to take those claims seriously, or I mean, does I guess Ben Oliver have to will he front the board later in the week to I guess explain I suppose the summer and just what CA plan to do about this?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I mean, I think we're a high performance. We're in a high performance business. We're in a high performance organisation. We're continually reviewing. I think some of the commentary that I've seen around JL in the media, I think that's it's a matter for within the team, within the squad, and all I'll really say is I think JL's leadership, his passion. He wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's a great leader. What he's done for team culture, what he provides to the organisation more broadly, so not just on the field but off the field, and I think he's been very, 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 very clear what he stands for, and that's to make Australians, the team, to make Australians proud, and I think Justin's got our full support. But of course, we're always, we will monitor performance, and certainly will, I think this last series, as with every series, we'll look to debrief and see how we can get better.
We look into, I suppose, the players' feelings, I suppose, about the coach, and I suppose the issues around that relationship.
I think, again, as I say, that's a the team dynamic. That is a something for the team, the captain, the coach, all to work through, and I think we'll be looking at performance in the round, and we've got a massively we've got the Ashes coming up. It's going to come around very, 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 very quickly, and that's going to be a massive focus for us. And I think I know I spoke to JL last night. He's extremely disappointed not to be going to South Africa, but I think it's now about using that time to plan the next period, and start to think and plan about our Ashes campaign, which is obviously hugely important.
Thanks, Nick.
Ben Horn, you've got another question?
Yeah, Nick, just following up on one you answered previously, I understand the playing squad's not changing, but I just wanted to ask specifically about Justin himself. I mean, he kind of has remained in a bubble because of the situation over in Perth. Would he join the squad in New Zealand, or that will stay as is as well?
Yeah, I think the plan is that will stay as is.
Sam Landsberger.
Thanks. Just quickly, with Andrew McDonald to lead that squad in New Zealand, any concerns that he could get poached back to state level? I mean, Cricket Victoria is obviously pretty interested in him. Would that be alarming to you if he was in talks with the state and did return and leaving CA?
Oh, I think he's done a great job. He's doing a great job with the squad. He's got this tour coming up. I'm sure he's very focused on that, with us leaving in the coming days. And I can't really comment on any. I'm not aware of any other discussions. So I know that he'll just be very focused on this 5-match series in New Zealand.
Melinda Farrell, you're up next with a question.
Yeah, hi Nick. Just the points that Australia would adopt for the slow over rates could end up being very crucial, depending on what happens in India. Have you discussed that with Justin Langer? And even more broadly, do you think if that ends up costing Australia a place in the final, it might actually be consequences that are strong enough to stamp that out in Test cricket?
Yeah, thanks, Melinda. No, I haven't discussed it specifically. I think none of us could have foreseen how this was all going to transpire, and I think the fines there, the rules around the ICC around slow over rates are there for a reason, and it could be a costly and a timely reminder. But as I say, we all know the rules going in, and we couldn't have foreseen this change. But the fact that we're not able to compete for the World Test Championship, for a place in the final in South Africa, and make that our own destiny is just adds to the disappointment of not being able to tour at this time.
And just following on from Dan's question earlier about the perception of Australian cricket prioritising more lucrative deals, I guess just a bit more bluntly, how would you respond to people saying that that there may have been financial considerations in this, and say, for example, not bringing Afghanistan to Australia, those accusations that financial interests may play a part in a decision like Australia going to South Africa?
Yeah, I'd refute those in the strongest possible terms. I mean, the reality around Afghanistan was it was a one test match, and we were looking at a month's quarantine in and back, potentially, certainly 2 weeks on the lead in, and for one test, and we're looking to rearrange that for this coming season. So I'd refute that in the strongest possible terms. I think we have done absolutely everything we possibly can to make this tour happen, and it's a very difficult, and it's actually a very challenging situation, obviously in South Africa just now, and that's that's what makes it even more heartbreaking that we're not able to go. We would love to go if it was safe, but the medical advice is telling us that it's not safe to do so. So, we want to play cricket. We want to support world cricket. I would refute that in the strongest possible terms. Mel.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for your time. It looks like that's it for all the questions. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.